our next presenter, Georgiana Manion. Where are you, Georgiana? Are you ready? Have you done this before, Georgiana?
No, and it's Georgiana.
Georgiana? Georgiana, sorry, but she's never done this before. So, you know the form, lots of love, lots of enthusiasm. So I think I'll do it a bit differently. I learned this off Silky, actually, so thanks to Silky. I'm going to start the applause. Go. Wait, it's a meeting. We've sorted the technical issue. So what I'm going to get these people at this end to start applauding, and then we're going to start this kind of ripple effect, okay? So if the people here start applauding to Georgiana, and then we'll move everyone here to the centre. I think we're going to the right, big cheer, yeah, Georgiana!
I wish I'd seen that one first, because this is my first time and I've made loads of mistakes.
Are you ready?
Why not? I'm going to be talking to you about my main passion in life, and that's teacups, and tea in general. It started off just about teacups, and it's kind of progressed a little bit. So when investigating teacups on the internet, I found the Urban Dictionary definition, which I will not be discussing. You can do that on your own time, and on your own IP addresses. So we're going to go through a bit of the history of the teacup, where it starts, first of all, how it's progressed to where we are now, and then some other images I found on the internet. I spend a lot of time on there, so if all else fails, just remember the puppy. Next one, a graph. Also, when investigating, you can see how many things on the internet relate to a teacup. And quite happily, teacup is a lot more popular than tea bagging, which came up in some of my searches. It was upsetting. So I'm going to give you a lot of information now. It was discovered in ancient China around 2700 BC by Emperor Shen Nung, who accidentally dropped some leaves into some hot water and went, I'm a herbalist, this is lovely. And so he decided that tea was born, and that was quite nice. So it then moved kind of over to Japan, where a Buddhist priest, Yesai, went on a trip and came back with it and turned it into a bit of an art form. And the tea ceremony was born, which reflects harmony, respect, purity and tranquility. The tea ceremony is a very choreographed event where people can spend years and years of their entire life trying to reach the middle point of where they're perfect at it. And it includes a host who will graciously give you information, give you the tea. You've got to pass it to people in a choreographed fashion, and it can all go wrong. We're off to Japan this year, and we're going to try one, and it's not going to be very successful, but I think we'll have a lovely time. And at the end of it, the host will have to present you all of the tea utensils, and you get to inspect them, which never happens at one of my tea parties, but it does happen there. When it finally came over to Europe, we had it was a missionary from Portugal went over and discovered tea. He encountered it there and brought it back to France and Holland, and it was many years before the Portuguese princess, Catherine of Braganza, married Charles II and went, tea, this is fashionable and delightful. And then suddenly all of Britain decided that tea was wonderful, and it replaced ale as our national drink. This is a favourite quote of mine, which is basically, the British are heathens, and tea can save them from idiocy and stout ways. Which is very nice. And we're going to move on and have a look at some original tea bowls. Now, originally a teacup didn't have handles, it didn't have a saucer, it was very thick and made of clay. And so, these are hundreds and hundreds of years old, and they look quite habitat, quite fashionable now. And they're very pretty, but they've progressed a little bit. These ones have got mousies and bunnies on them. So this is a modern tea bowl, still very popular in East Asia. They glaze them now. But when tea became popular in Europe, we imported huge amounts of China with all of the leaves that we imported as well. And we wanted something that looked ethnic and Chinese. And so we imported lots of things where we mixed European and Chinese scenes and symbols onto all of the teacups. They were very pretty and delicate and a lot thinner, but it meant that our ladies burnt their fingers on the hot tea. So we ended up, a nice gentleman called Mr. Adams invented the handle and put it onto a teacup, which was very, very kind. And he also invented the sugar and the milk, sugar bowl and the milk jug to go alongside it, so I blame him for my addiction. Clay originally was used, and they wouldn't glaze the clay at first because they like to retain the flavour of the tea in unglazed clay. It was a reddish-brown colour, but then we've progressed on to hard-paste porcelain. Originally from East Asia, it was very thin, very beautiful, and quite translucent, so it was very fancy. And it had a really good strength, and it was cooked at a very high temperature in a kiln. We tried, and it didn't work very well. We have soft-paste porcelain, and it broke when you put hot tea in it, and it served a purpose, but it wasn't quite good enough because we didn't really read the ingredients properly, because we didn't really know Chinese. So we kind of learnt it a bit, and there was bone china. Bone china's actually got bones in it. That was new to me. I used to be a vegan and had a lot of bone china, and it's about as vegan as Haribo. So that was quite nice. About 50% of just ground up cattle ash, so that's quite delightful. But because of the difference in the types of porcelains, there was a debate about, do you put the milk in first or the tea in first? Well, it's just snobbery. People had soft paste originally, poured hot tea in, and it cracked. So when hard paste came around, people went, oh, I'm very posh. And they got the hard paste recipe and went, look, I can pour hot tea in, aren't I fancy? So it's just all snobbery. Now it's down to taste. If you do have a lot of teacups like me and don't often have tea parties, these are some other uses for your teacup. Something very fancy and cool.
Georgiana Manion, thank you. Brilliant, well done for your first effort, that was really good.